Hey there, Heather Boyd Wire here.
Today I'm making fancy wire Paisley rings. I'm using 20 gauge wire and 22 and 26. I have my ring mandrel, my tools, some tiny beads, and I've made some templates. So we're going to start with about 18 to 20 inches of the 20 gauge wire, and we will just bend it in half and pinch that end to bring it in. I'm just going to pinch it with my flat pliers so it's closed, and then now we want to form a spiral with the two wires together. So make sure you pinch them right in close. We're going to start with the round pliers and then pinch it in with the flat pliers and continue making that curve. It's a little stiff with the double wire, but if you go slowly with it, you can make a nice smooth little curve. Make the spiral as tight or as loose as you want. Use the flat pliers just to make sure it's all adjusted in place. And then we're kind of separating the wire and rounding it out with your thumb to form one of the curves. Now we're going to make this one really fancy. We're taking the end of our fine round nose pliers and we're going to make some tiny little loops around the outside. So I will link up these pliers in the description. These are the best fine round nose pliers that I've found. And we're just going to twist the wire around and pull it to make the circles. If you don't have such fine round pliers, you can start the round with a larger round nose plier and just pull it to tighten it up a little bit to make it smaller. So we're just going to continue with those little loops. And then when you have enough of them, we're going to curve the wire around and then keep making the loops until they've completed that one side. And then we're going to bend the wire out. And we are going to do the other side. I didn't really measure or count these, but you can just eyeball it depending on what size paisley that you want. Using your flat pliers to pinch in the wires if they're separate, and then just keep going down to complete the second side of the paisley. Take your time with it and try to space them out as evenly as you can. Don't worry if it's not perfect. We just want to make the outside with the little loops to make it super fancy. Using the flat pliers to straighten out as you go. We're going to curve it around. I'm curving the wire to the back, keeping it consistent. Complete that loop and then bring the wires out. So we've finished the outside of the paisley. And we want the ring band to also be fancy. So we're going to go across and complete the ring band. Now the length of the band is going to depend on how big you want your ring to be. It will also depend on how large you've made the paisley. But I made it about 2¼ inches in total. So you'll just keep, testing it. You can also take a piece of wire and then wind it around a ring mandrel to get your size, open it up and measure it to the same length as this ring that you want. So I'm just lining up the loops so they're even, making sure that they're at the same distance apart, at the same position. And you can just keep testing as you go. Line them up to see if they're even. Now in clipping the ends, I always cut my wire a little too long, and then I'm making a little daisy flower to go inside. These are 4mm cat's eye beads. I have lots of other tutorials on how to make these daisies, either as rings or as earrings. So you just put 6 beads, curve them around, wind the wire around the top, and then bring the wire down the middle, add another 4mm bead, bring that wire in. This is the 26 gauge wire. And now I'm just going to adjust the outside of the paisley to make sure these loops are sitting flat. Just go around with the flat nose pliers. These are the Zeron tweezer nose pliers. And then we're just going to position that flower inside the paisley. I'm going to take the end of the wire and wind it around one side just to secure the flower in place. And then take that wire and wind it around the ring band, and that will hold those two wires together. And then bring it across to the opposite side and string the wire in and give it a good little tug to hold it in place. And then I'm going to go around the flower and wind a wire in between each petal. Makes it more secure and makes it look a little bit more fancy. So just work your way around the daisy, winding the wire around, hooking it into the outside of the paisley, and just keep going around and around until you've gone all the way around the flower. Make sure you tug that wire so it's secure. Bring it around to the back and clip it with your flush cutters. These are the Zeron flush cutters. Then pinching that in so it's not pokey. And then with the other wire, we're just going to wind it back over the band, winding it between the loops. That's going to hold it together. And then we'll get to the end and clip it with the flush cutters. Pinch in that end so it's not pokey. And we can put it on the ring mandrel, hold the paisley with your thumb and wind around the band. And then you can clip those so they're even. Open up that space a little bit so you can fit the two wires in there, and then we're going to feed them in. And then get your round pliers to curve them around the band in between two of the loops. So just curve them around with your fine round nose pliers and give it a little pinch with the flat nose pliers. These tweezer nose pliers by Zeron are perfect to get in those little crevices, those little spots, and just pinch it right in so it's secure and there's no pokey ends. And you can go ahead in and make any other little adjustments that you need to straighten out those loops. Go all the way around. Same for the ring band. Just make sure all those loops are even. And then I always put it back on the mandrel and push it in. You can use a mallet if you want to just lightly tap it. And there is your beautiful, fancy paisley ring with the larger daisy flower. I made another one. This was my sample with the silver wire. I didn't wind the bands together, but you can always wind those bands together. That's with the blue cat's eye beads. And then for the second one, I'm going to start with a shorter wire. It's about 10 or 12 inches, still 20 gauge. Fold it in half and then pinch in that end again. Make sure it's nicely pinched in. And then we're going to get our round pliers again and form the spiral. So just get as close to the end as you can without slipping off and bring it around to form your spiral. Just go slowly with it. Adjust it as you need to get it as even as possible. Just do little kind of bends at a time, and that'll make a nice smoother curve. And then we're going to separate it. You can make a tighter spiral if you like. I just kept it simple. And now we're going to form the outside of the paisley. And going in with a large Sharpie to bring it around to make the end of the paisley like a teardrop shape. So now with the flat pliers, we're going to bend the wires out to form the ring band. Flip it around and bend the upper wire. Just hold it with the flat pliers and push it against the flat pliers with your thumb. Straighten them out to the side. Make sure they're lined up. And now I'm going to get some thinner wire and just wind it around a couple of times. And just bend it around the frame. Make sure it's pushed right down there. And then bring it around. So you can use 24 gauge wire for this or 26. And we are going to add some tiny little seed beads. So we're just going to hold the bead there and wind the wire around. We're just holding the bead to the outside of the frame. And we're going to continue adding these tiny seed beads around the outside of the paisley shape. So when we get to the end, we'll wind it around and clip it. To form the spirals, we're going to take 22 gauge artistic wire, start the spiral with your round pliers, and then hold it with your thumb and finger to wind the wire around to form the spirals. Use your flat pliers to hold it as you push the wire around to make the spirals. And then we're going to do the next one in the row, starting with the round pliers, holding it with your thumb and finger and winding the wire around. Could be 2 or 3 times. And we're going to make a bunch of these spirals in a row. So we're just going to keep forming them around and around until you have enough that are going to fit inside the paisley. And then once we've done a whole series of these spirals, we're going to make sure it fits in the frame. And we're going to put the wire through to the back, hold it in place, and take that wire and bend it around the frame to secure it. And give it a little pinch. And then just position the wire in place. Give it a little bend with the pliers to help it out. Clip the end. And then feed it through to attach that other end. Just place it in the position and bring the wire around to secure it in place. And then we're going to clip that other wire, pinch in that pokey end. So we have the little spirals inside. And then I made a tiny little daisy flower as I did in the first one, but using the tiny seed beads. So I just made this little tiny flower and I'm attaching it in the middle of the spirals. Just make sure the wires are at opposite sides so it sits securely in place. Clip the end and pinch in that little end. So that's the paisley design, and I have the other templates I'll link up in the description for other ideas for what you can put in your paisley and bring around the ends. Of course I cut them too long, so we're just going to give them a little trim. We're going to lift up the paisley frame and pop in those ends. Just push it right in there. And then take the flat pliers and bring the wires around the frame. And then we want to cut them flush. Just give them a good little clip flush. And pinch those ends in. Make sure they're nice and secure. Put it back on the ring mandrel to adjust it. Just push it down with your thumb. And there is the other fancy paisley ring with the little beads around the outside.
So thanks so much for watching the video. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for lots more wire art and jewelry making videos. And if you'd like to share photos of your wire art and jewelry, be sure to join the Wire Makers Club on Facebook. And if you'd like to check out my work on Etsy, my husband and I specialize in custom wedding cake toppers and funky jewelry. I also have a mailing list, so if you'd like to sign up below, I'll send you my Wire Art Essentials ebook. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you the next time.